3.
You're listening to All Things 3D, where we talk about the world of fabricating, designing, and capturing in the third dimension.
Hi, I'm Addie from the Verge at CES, and I am a Jedi right now. I'm trying out the STEM motion controller from Sixense. That's the company behind the Razer Hydra, and this is a little bit similar in that it's a motion controller, but what it does is have a base station back here that sends out an electromagnetic field. Using that, I've got one tracker here on my head, and I'm carrying 2 of them, sort of like guns, and they can sense their position. So unlike something like Leap Motion, which is using a camera to tell where your hands are and just sort of sensing them and trying to figure it out, this actually has hardware trackers that genuinely kind of make it a lot more accurate and also give you a much wider field of motion. This was probably one of the best VR things I've done at CES. I've also gone shoe shopping, which was fun, in a robot body.
This time, throw it to her feet. Let go just a little. That's just that throwing motion. There you go. So now they're under.
Oh my God, I just threw shoes onto a mannequin. Really, it's surprisingly versatile. Even though it's still just a little bit weird, there are about 5 times more buttons here than I'm using. But this is really, really a lot of fun. So the STEM system was funded on Kickstarter, and those units are supposed to be shipping out all by GDC this March. It's also available for pre-order at $380. Okay, I'm good.
Hi, this is Mike Balzer of All Things 3D, and gosh, what's today? I think it's the 8th of February, 2019. So what you just saw was Addie Robertson of The Verge looking very energetic with the STEM system. Boy, does that bring back some memories. So I'm one of those people that signed up, actually on my birthday, October 12th, back in 2013. Yeah, 5 years ago. Boy, was everybody excited. This was the device that was going to be the killer product to go along with the Oculus. At that time, I guess it was the developer 1, and then obviously they came out with the 2. And years went by, 1 year after another, after another, after another. I had Amir on a few times, and you know, Amir has been very, what's the word, gracious to come on and talk about his product and basically understand the plight of all of us Kickstarter backers, and said, it's around the corner, just wait, and gave me a date, and that date came and went, and sadly, nobody ever got a product. Then everybody wanted their money back, including myself, and we all got kind of a little bit angry about that. I did, at least. And out of the blue, a couple weeks ago, I went back to Kickstarter to look at my emails, and I noticed that they were providing refunds. Next thing I knew, okay, I thought to myself, well, maybe just a lot of hot air. I sent my email or my reply back, and voila, in my PayPal, there was a refund for the exact amount. Now, here, we could probably be a little stickler there. What could have I done with $299? I figured out it was about $34 if I had actually put it in a savings account. But who cares? I got some money back. So the whole point is I have followed Sixense over these years, a lot of it being negative, but they have really tried to promote their product, show their product off. You know, it's funny. I don't know if I just kept a standoff attitude towards them, but I never actually got to try it myself. but I watched a lot of people try it, and they all seem very enthusiastic with it, but they always seem to be showing the same, what do you want to call it, prototypes. And as I followed them, I noticed that they were having some problems trying to convert their prototype into a standard consumer or retail product. But they were still energized and working in the consulting industry using their products. So I really wanted to, I guess, have some questions answered. Why the change of heart? So Amir, being as gracious as usual, decided to come on. So I would like to invite and introduce Amir, and he can go ahead and fill a little bit more about himself, and I'll give him the screen. Amir, hello.
Michael, it's a pleasure, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me and inviting Sixense. So just for those that don't know Sixense or me, or you know, I've been doing virtual reality and simulation, we used to call it in the 90s, or immersive computing, we used to refer to it as, and I still refer to it as immersive computing since the 90s. 94 was my first VR military door-to-door training with the US Navy. And it took many years, and really took when I met Palmer Luckey and the rest of his gang. And 2013, it was the first SVVR. We did it together back in May 2000, I think 13, if I remember. And they showed their first prototype, and we showed our old prototype that came out of the Razer Hydra, which was the wireless Razer Hydra version. And I saw how successful they were with their Kickstarter. And then we went into our own Kickstarter, really talking through it with our friends at Archisketch, when they asked us to actually take their Tuscany demo and add our motion controller, 6-DOF motion controller to it, and of course we did it, and then we released it for free for the community and all that.
Now, this was the Hydra, correct?
No, that's before the Hydra. That's with the Hydra. Everything we did supported the Hydra, and then supported the first prototype. If you remember, they were like rounded, much, again, the technology, our technology evolved and improved significantly since then. Yeah. But the important thing is, let's make sure, first and foremost, that we have a clear understanding of the Kickstarter, not only the Kickstarter success, of course, that a lot of people is very aware.
Let me bring that up while you're talking. So go ahead and keep talking.
Exactly. So this is the Kickstarter page, as Michael brought it up. And the most important thing about it is that and the success of our Kickstarter at the time, it took less than a day, and we already met our goal of 250,000. And then within a week, we basically were over 500,000, and it was unbelievably successful. We closed over 600.
604,978 to be exact.
Exactly. 2,383 supporters. Let's put it this way. Without the Kickstarter supporters, meaning the backers, and without that, the investors that I had at the time would never allow me to even continue the process of developing the STEM. And we know that we don't have experience in actually consumer technology and bringing consumer product to the market. But
so let me interrupt you there for a moment, Amir. So who actually brought the Hydra to the market? Now, if I understood correctly, you were the technology behind it. So who actually brought the Hydra to the market?
It's called the Razer Hydra. That's the name. And it's obviously what we have done with Razer, which is what we've been doing for many years. Sixense started in 2007. Sixense has always designed very, very advanced hardware and software solutions, and partnered with big public or private companies to take it to market. So we never been a part of the plastic molding and industrial design and productization, all the way to sales and marketing of consumer products. Here, the community was so empowering and so supportive that we said to our board of directors, we have to give it a chance. We believed, and you know me, I spoke to you for many, many years now. I always believed VR, AR, again, because I did it first in the 90s, and even then, it always included 6 degrees of freedom controllers and additional trackers that were on your waist, were on a gun, so I always knew that to have success with VR, you have to have the controllers. The Razer Hydra were okay, were good, but they were very short range and not accurate enough. And we knew that and not to mention that, of course, the first dev kit by Oculus did not even have position tracking. So we had position tracking for the head. Otherwise, people got a lot of motion sickness.
No, that's why everybody was excited, because they knew that we would need motion tracking to provide a realistic environment. So all you had was a 3 degrees of freedom with their IMU, and that was the extent of it. So
100%, that's exactly.
Again, one of the reasons that your product was exciting and was back so quickly. People knew that this is where we needed to go.
Exactly. Now, 2 things happened very quickly. We went about developing the technology to the point where we took the money that was given to us so graciously by the Kickstarter backers. We continued, and the Kickstarter style, but provided pre-orders on our website, and approximately 800 people ordered online, and at a much higher price, at about 40% higher price. On our website, and went with everything we have, meaning all our engineering resources, everything we have, and put it into bringing the STEM to market. And initially, we had technical issues on the electronics. We had problematic issues with getting approvals, because the great thing about Kickstarter is that it's a global platform. The terrible thing about Kickstarter is that it's a global platform. Because the moment we had to get approval from the US regulation, Japan regulation, Canadian, European, we realized all our design had to go, we had to basically use it as early prototypes and then redesign it now with companies that know how to design to pass it in all those markets. Because we had, most of the people were Americans from the US, but we had from every continent, every country almost, we had over 100 different countries people ordered. So, okay, we went and again, went about that, continued. Parallel to that, we hired a mechanical engineer, 2 of them, and they were designing the plastics. We never designed plastic before, so we never thought it's going to be such a big deal. It looks very easy. What is the big deal? Designing plastics, then you go make molds and you make it. The controllers, these controllers that we designed were so complicated. It took us all the way. So we finished it. It took us years just to finish the electronics. Then the plastics got us, the trigger doesn't work. The bumper doesn't work. It's got nothing to do with our technology. The plastics to make it work. Forget about cost even. Just to make it work. We said, we don't mind, we'll ship it, even if we lose money. But we couldn't get this thing work. We couldn't get the plastic. We modified the tool and modified the tool. We worked with this company, out of Oakland here, because we try to save ourselves the trouble to work, with Chinese manufacturers. So work with a company called Fathom, which is, an amazing company, but, they're still limited to what initially we gave them as the industrial design. Helped us a lot. The bottom line is this, and I always said that, and you might not remember, but I would like to remind everybody, because a good friend, just like you, I consider you a good friend, with all the issues we always had, good friends, or like family, we have ups and downs. I look at Reverend Kyle. Reverend Kyle I'm assuming you know him, right?
I've heard of him. I don't know him personally.
So, Reverend Kyle, just like you, every year, at least once, if not twice, I went live on an interview on his blog, and he had real-time Kickstarters come in and ask me questions. And I always said and answered to the question, will you give refunds to people if you do not deliver the product? And I said two things. The answer was two-part to it. I believe we should definitely give refunds. Legally, we don't have an obligation, but I believe we should give refunds. But what I promise you, I will take that and my belief to my board, which represents my investors, my shareholders, and I will tell them that that's what I believe. If we decide not to ship the product, and we will stop the design, stop the development, cut our losses, and say we didn't make it, we cannot make it a consumer product, we'll stop, because at one point, as you remember, we made it a developer kit, right? We said we'll use this developer kit to all our enterprise developers that we worked, Lincoln Electric and VRSim and Penumbra, for the medical field and training and all that stuff. Okay, it came to the point we finished the design, and now it's finished. This is out of the tools controller, finished with the texture, the smell of it. I would love to have a smell here. You can smell.
That may be the next thing you work on.
This is the pack, and we have the base, all completed and done. But then what happened, and what still is the case, is that even though, and I have produced the 2,500 units that I needed for the Kickstarters, we actually produced the plastics. We have the plastics in the factory it's right here in Northern California, Fremont. In Fremont, that's where the factory is. Shipped it all the units in there, but only plastics. Then we sat down and said, okay, are we going to, now remember, as we are going through this nightmare of going through the plastic issues, which took another year and a half after we finished the electronics, and cost us a lot of money, because the tools, the moment you make it, to modify them, especially if you need to add pieces, is a nightmare. It's very expensive and takes a lot of hard work, and you have to travel to China. It's very difficult. Eventually, we moved it to China. We couldn't get it done here. The point is, what happened then is the technology itself, the electronics, the firmware, the software went way ahead because of all the other products that we made, that I showed you, the welding training with Lincoln Electric, the spray painting with VRSim for big paint companies.
We'll go ahead and show those here shortly. I mean, some people have already seen the video, but we'll talk about those in a little bit.
And healthcare. So we developed the technology so far ahead that we said, are we going to go now produce with this plastic the old version of the hardware that doesn't have distortion correction that we today have in other products? It doesn't have the auto sync the way we have in other products. It doesn't have many features that allows you to have many different systems in the same room and they don't interfere with each other. It doesn't have both mobile. Right now our system works with the focus. It works with any mobile device automatically. Are we going to release it with the older version, like DK1 version, versus going about upgrading all the hardware to the latest and greatest and releasing it as a developer kit that's going to be initially too expensive for the consumer markets? But since the consumer market, as we spoke about it earlier, is really suffering a major blow by major mistakes that were done by different companies and some unfortunate, bankruptcies that we've seen out there. And we were very successful, and we'll discuss for a second what allows me, what is the money to give back, because we had to give back over $1 million. The 600,000 to Kickstarter is just the beginning. Then I have all the pre-orders. So to get permission to return that money, you can imagine I have to have a lot more to get that money to give back. So what we decided is the following. We said, look, the Kickstarter community and the pre-order that supported us and helped us to get to where we are deserves, now that we can afford it, because, and I'll tell you in a second what happened last year.
Okay.
Now that we can afford it, and we are saying to ourselves, we will not ship it now that we finished the plastic, and we promised that when we finish the plastic, we'll let you know when we ship the product. And now that we decided that we need at least another 6 months to 8 months to redo all the electronics and some of the software work, we can't hold back on the community. And we went back, presented this whole opportunity that we have to upgrade the STEM, make the STEM, you know, what it needs to be, but for as a developer kit for the enterprise solutions. And you know, consumers that are going to want to take it, they can take it, they can buy it. That's different, but it's going to be expensive. It's going to be directly focused for both VR, AR, mobile, desktop, all. And the money has to be refunded in full. When I say in full, Michael, because you made a comment 2 minutes ago, you could have made interest. I'm 100% with you. And we considered interest. It's impossible because then you have to pay taxes on it, and I have to have you sign 1099s. So we realized it's not enough money. So we decided instead of just interest, we will refund 100%. When I say 100%, and you said 100%, but I want you to take into account what it means 100%. We went back to Kickstarter. We told Kickstarter, we are one of your most successful Kickstarters. Many Kickstarters from our era, before you change the rules, that are not required to pay back the money because of those days, the early days, are going to pay back the money. And we're willing to pay back our 90% because you took 10%. You got 10% and we got 90. I did not get 604,000. I got
I agree.
I got 540,000. Kickstarter said, sorry, we have nothing to do with refunds. Not only that, we don't even have a process. We cannot support you. We cannot tell you how. You do whatever you want. We had to spend time researching how. PayPal was extremely friendly because we needed a PayPal to allow us to use a mechanism that they have for big companies that do it on a kind of a ongoing basis. And so we can take the whole table of all the Kickstarter supporters, backers, and put it into PayPal. We needed all the emails and all that, and we sent to confirm and all that. The bottom line is, and it was, otherwise it could have been a management nightmare to go one by one on 2,300 and something people. And then we went from the announcement back, I think it was October, September even. We went, and Steve, which you know, Steve, full-time job. He stopped selling. Is the director of business development. He's responsible for all these other enterprise deals that we've been doing. He stopped, and all he's been doing until November 15 was get the Kickstarter ready, the pre-orders ready to refund everyone. So this is just to be very clear where we are today, and I need your help. And
well, let me interrupt you at this point.
Yeah.
So where are you at with the refunds? I know I've received mine. I think others have, but I went back and looked at some of the comments. I don't know if they're current or not, but they do still seem to wonder where their refunds are. So maybe we can talk a little bit about that. But how many have you refunded? Let's answer that question first.
We refunded about 2,000 Kickstarters. We refunded over $500,000. We refunded
$5,000 in pre-orders or $5,000 on the Kickstarter?
No, 500,000 in Kickstarter.
Okay.
Over 500,000 in Kickstarter. A lot of the people that are not responding, about 300, are those that took shirts, which we shipped them. But anyway, even if we gave you the shirts, we're still refunding you. We're not even trying to discount that. Or people that just gave us $5. We have 300 individuals, plus minus 300, that have not yet responded with an email that allows us to send the PayPal. And we have it all put aside as a reserve to give them all the rest of the money. That's another $100,000 that needs to be paid back to the community. Number one. Number two, on the pre-orders, we have about, a little bit more than 80%, a little bit more than, it's kind of almost 700 out of the 800 are already refunded. And again, those guys, a lot of them are companies, and they just don't respond. The people that ordered are just not working there anymore. The emails don't. So it's very hard for us, but we are going one by one, Steve, and trying to refund. Again, the money is kept aside and available. And when people are going to come, we will refund them. And just like you came, 3-4 months later, immediately you got the refund. The same thing for the back orders. Immediately you get the refund.
It was actually 2 months, but that's fine.
It's
you sent it out in November, right? End of October, November.
I think September was the first update, wasn't it?
I don't believe so, but
nice. Take a look for a second. I think that update is for September, but okay, it doesn't matter. I'm with you. Whether it's 2 months or it's 1 month, I'm asking you. So because you have a good connection to the community. We would like the balance 300 to come over, get the refund, because I can tell you that we have that mailing list. Everything that we will have that in any way can be relevant to them, we will give it to them. For example, we have taken our game that we intended to be one of the games that's going to launch with the STEM, our Siege VR that we released on Steam and on Oculus. We went ahead and released it on Siege, at the Siege on both of them. It's because we already made the game. It was supposed to go on the STEM. So those kind of things, we are looking now, getting close to how can we do more for the Kickstarter community beyond the full 100% refund that we did. And games like, I don't know if any of those have Vive or have Oculus, we might just go ahead and give them a free code. We would like to make sure that people from the community that supported us from Kickstarter and pre-orders know that we consider them a major influencer on the reason that we have today, and we can talk about it, and you'll see the best professional we call it mock-up system. And again, it's not to replace the touch. The touch is great. Vive is amazing. I have nothing but the greatest compliments, and we are working with them, and we have great relationship. But for professional applications, occlusion, line of sight is unacceptable limitation. And for that, all those other companies are working with us to integrate our technology into their solutions.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about that. So if I understand correctly, you had a lot of problems bringing the product to market because of tooling. Then when you finally got the plastics, which you just showed me, the electronics had already been outdated.
Exactly.
So I'm assuming that you now have more recent technology, but the price has gone up. Are you willing to share a price now? If somebody was still interested, as you said, the main advantage of your system is the lack of occlusion problems. And so I'm assuming at this particular point, you have a stable product. So if somebody wanted to come back to you in either an enterprise or have a professional need for it, are you willing to talk about that there, or should they come to you directly or through Steve?
So they can definitely come to Steve, but I can tell you, at the moment, we don't sell, we lease. You come to us, big companies come, they say, we would like to explore developing for the purpose of licensing the reference design in the future. So they take a STEM, they pay us a lot of money, meaning you're talking about over $2,500 for a year of a lease just to build, and they take our SDK and they together, again, it depends the configuration, controller, packs, doesn't matter, whatever. But they then take the SDK and they start developing the software. We developed a very effective, I believe, process to engage large companies and bring them in very, moderate steps forward into VR, like Lincoln Electric, like the VR, the sim spray. We believe that go in, start with dev kit, develop software, create prototypes, sell it to your management, how effective it can be as training, how effective it can be for rehabilitation, helping them to do it. Step one. Step two, we love it. Now they say, like Razer did for the Hydra, now let's make our own industrial design. So then we take our reference design and we work with a company. This is the exact transmitter board that was custom designed for Lincoln Electric for the welding training.
So
and
who creates, do you create the board for them?
We go with them. Again, they put their own team, and together.
Okay, so you act as a consultant now. So
we don't act as a consultant because we act as a licensee. As a licensee, okay. We license the reference design. We don't do consulting. We don't charge you for working with you.
Okay.
Usually.
So but that's included in the cost. I mean, we're still.
Yeah, exactly. We're trying to get royalty if we can. Again, usually we sell you prototypes. Okay. To the point we make prototypes that fits to your plastics, and at a certain point we transfer the files, the schematics, to you as a company, as a licensee, and then you take it into production.
Okay. So you do sell a reference kit. You said somewhere around $2,500 in a lease, an annual lease. Is that what I understood?
It's the STEM system as a developer kit for, let's say, $2,500 a year. But then after the customer design whatever it is that they need, and now they want to make their own spray gun, for example, or their own welding torch, like you'll see in the videos. Then we need to change our layout and sometimes even the schematics to fit into their industrial design. And they also sometimes need different features, different accuracy. The accuracy for Lincoln Electric, exactly. If you look at Lincoln Electric, this just came out.
Now more than ever, manufacturers are looking
for this is the most amazing
skilled welders. Preparing this new generation is the challenge for every educator involved in welding training. Virtual reality trainers are proven to be an effective tool in the training process. Vertex training systems from Lincoln Electric bridge the gap between the classroom and the welding booth. Lincoln Electric is helping educators prepare a better welding workforce for the future of manufacturing. Our line of Vertex virtual reality training systems includes 3 models, each aimed at specific training programs.
There are 4.
The system is designed to simulate
just
sites.
Released in September. Okay. We don't need to continue. That's a very long. But the bottom line is all our technology is in it. In the headset, this is a custom headset. You have our trackers in there. In every one of these guns, there are 5 different ones. You have that. There's an amazing data analytics tool that gives you all the data feedback to the trainee and to the trainer. And it's in colleges already, all over the place. in skill-based colleges. It's and high schools and in companies. You know, they've companies that are training their people in welding in many different places around the world. It's an unbelievable experience that to work with these people, because they are experts in bringing training. And for them, just to be clear, it's all about removing the risk and allowing more and more repetitions, because it's all about muscle memory for them. But again, look at this amazing system, and it is again been very successful for many years that we've been working with them. And the VR sim that you know, look at all these tools that they've developed. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is very impressive. And so I can see the model working, and clearly it's allowed you to have enough money to go ahead and refund your original. And, I do remember you saying, and even though obviously I did not sign up to be your research partner, but clearly working with a product like this that was new to the market, if I had known about it, I may not have put all that money in it, not knowing that I had a product. But the fact is that you did provide refund, but clearly it allowed you to advance. And as we see there, and I'm going to go ahead and bring up SimSpray, so you can talk about that right now.
Exactly. SimSpray, this video is good because what it does for you, it shows you how effective it is. Now, this is more VR. Welding is unbelievably demanding on the spec. For the guys and the girls here that listen to Michael's, program, you can appreciate, and that has experience in VR. You have a torch, and you have the headset, and you have the coupon. The torch and the headset and the physical coupon needs to be within 0.5 millimeter of all together. It was a very difficult precision, and of course there cannot be occlusion of any type. This one being spray painting, again, also in the market now for almost a year. This is 9 months in the market with us. Now it's been in the market with this new version that we just released. This version has a lot of advantages. This one, again, the torch, the spray gun has our tracker in it. The Oculus, because the application required to use multiple people, sometimes occlusion is impossible to handle. They had to replace the optical tracking of the Oculus, and you'll see in a minute, you'll see it on the head. You have like a unicorn, and that unicorn again is our tracker. That unicorn is this. This. It's a USB connected, and it goes right there. You see on the top of the head?
Go ahead and put it back up again. I didn't switch fast enough.
Oh.
And let your image stabilize.
This tracker, this is the actual sensor right here. This tracker replaces the optical tracking of the Oculus CV1, of the Oculus headset. Because for them, occlusion is impossible to handle. They cannot have and again, remember, this is a real class.
So that receiving board has the IMU as well as your proprietary positional tracking functionality all built in. So it takes,
yes.
So it replaces the optic positional tracking as well as their IMU. Is that correct?
It doesn't replace their IMU. We still use the IMU. We fuse it. We take their IMU, fuse it with our solution. Our solution now has also an IMU.
So you use both IMUs and just fuse it all to provide.
And I'm using, again, and it's all because you must, in the professional market, it's all about the consistency and the accuracy. The data is not enough to be accurate sometimes. You have to be accurate all the times, and you need to have all the time the same latency. And so look at all this data, all this scoring, every detail, everything is the difference between passing a test or failing and having to continue taking the classes. You end up with a certificate that you can get a job. So for me, again, looking at this, without the Kickstarter kicking it off for us, we will not be able to support these guys. And this is one of the best applications I've ever experienced. And I've been doing it, as you know, for over 25 years. One of the best applications I've ever seen in my life in VR.
So what's the range on this particular, your professional version here? What's the range of the headset? As you know, with the new HTC Vive system, the version 2, you can have multiple, as we call them, the light towers or the base stations. Are you able to use multiple, what do we want to call them, the magnetic base station? What's the maximum range of those? Could you talk about that a little bit?
Of course I can. Yes, definitely. That's a very important question, actually, Michael. That and that takes us to the world of mobile. We have two different systems, fundamentally two product groups, wired and wireless. The wired group is a group that supports wired headsets with wired, torch for welding or spray gun. They have a cable. And having a cable, when you have such high requirements for latency, low latency, and high accuracy, the cable has a huge advantage, obviously. In synchronization, you can imagine it's much easier, but that's why these people are asking for such accuracy and consistency. So first of all, the system, for example, for VR Sim, the requirement is to be 8 feet in radius. So it's 16 feet all around. So what they do, they put this pole, as you saw, in the middle, and then you can have 4, 6 actual trainers all around it. So students are all around one system, and a trainer has the touch screen, and they can control it, and they control everybody's experience. Now, the important thing is that to do what Vive does, and I think it's very important that they are enabling it for the Vive, I believe the more natural, when you want to move from room to room, that's when this all-in-one, the Vive Focus, come in play. And even, and I'm very, very excited for the Quest coming out.
So am I.
Why? Because this inside-out tracking eliminates the need for a base for me. I don't need a base because they give me world reference. So now I don't need the base at all. So now as long as this has good head tracking, you can go not from room to room. You can go from city to city. And you never lose your tracking because the tracking is always self-relative to the headset. We have a little tracker that sits on top. And you probably remember the Gear VR that we did. Right?
I saw it. I saw it at GDC in 2015 or 2016.
Exactly. We did it. We worked very closely with Samsung. So, but the Gear VR had a problem because, with all due respect, mobile phone was never designed to support VR experiences. Just even the optics of the screen. So this is the first one, and that's why we are working so closely with HTC, because this is the first product that is designed and passes enterprise requirement. This is, for us, was a big break in we tried Gear VR for a long, long time to deliver. We worked with Accenture, we worked with a lot of different companies, but it was always marketed as a consumer product, for a phone. This is marketed, but also it passes all the durability testing, it passes all the performance testing that is required for enterprise. And because of that, this is my standard today. So today we have a solution. I cannot show it right now, but give an example. You see this? This is another transmitter. This can sit right here. See this? It sits right here. And it gives you 6 degrees of freedom. Better because it's so close, it can be small. And it's close because now your hand are only as far as it needs. It's less than a meter from your head. It's about, our spec is a meter 10 centimeters, basically 3.5 feet. The point is, you have full 6 degrees of freedom at such an amazing level that you can take it anywhere as long as my inside out tracking works.
So let's talk about that. Obviously, maybe HTC has alluded to this, but as we've seen in the Quest, and there's a couple of other products out there, they're using the stereo paired cameras and then adding additional ones so that it handles a wider field of view. But obviously, the audience needs to be aware of what makes your product special is the fact is because it's magnetic base. And this is why I asked in one of the questions, which I'll get to in a moment, there's no occlusion. So that means your controllers can be anywhere around your head, around your body, and they can still be tracked. Is that what I understand?
So 100%, but think beyond controllers. Because when you do training or you do rehabilitation, like we are doing with Penumbra. Penumbra is a big public company in the medical field. They're doing stroke rehab with us. It's not controllers. They have a tracker in different places on the body, depends what you are trying to rehabilitate.
And again, so, how many let's just call them trackers, the STEM tracker. How many, I remember it was like 6. How many actual trackers can your professional system use now?
Our professional system today, with our new RF protocol, new radio frequency that allows us to utilize the bandwidth of Bluetooth much more effectively, which is the only limitation. Wired, it can be 1,000. There's no limitation of how many electromagnetic tracker if they are wired. But if they are wireless, then you are limited with the 80 channels available in RF. So for that purpose, right now we support, let's say, up to about 20.
So let's say at least the number of joints that you have on your body, major joints.
Exactly. At least, let's put it this way. A professional mock-up system has about 16 trackers on the body.
Okay.
If they're position trackers. And this is what we used to do back in the 90s even. Those people that remember the older solutions that used to be like Pohemus and NDI, Ascension that NDI purchased. Those guys in the military, in the professional markets of the 90s and 70s and 80s, those guys.
Can I stop you there for a moment? You brought up NDI, and you actually reminded me. So NDI has their own technology. I just covered them last week or the last time. They have as you said, they bought Ascension, which has their own controller functionality, which sounds eerily similar to yours. Clearly, they're not. Is that correct?
I cannot, let's put it this way, I cannot talk about anybody else, including NDI. NDI is a competitor.
Okay.
MS is a competitor. So we don't, I consider them great companies. They've been in the market for over 30 years. Ascension used to be part of Pohemus before they broke off of Pohemus. So I know, from my good old days in the military simulation space, those guys, Ascension used to be more medical, and Pohemus was more, Air Force, cockpit head mounts and government contracts. But the bottom line is those guys, they have their own solutions. I have not tried or seen the new release at CES. When I look at it, I will tell you exactly what I think about it.
Okay. Well, I've ordered a developer kit, but they've never contacted me back yet. So we'll see. All right. So you mentioned HTC Vive. Any other companies that we should be interested in looking at?
So remember also that the HTC Vive and the Vive Focus here, they're coming with their own controllers.
Mm-hmm.
They're working with Finch. They're coming with their own 6DOF controllers. We don't look at those as competition. Those are great low-cost controllers, just like we don't look at Quest and their 6DOF controllers. Those are great. We hope that the Quest I believe the Quest can be and should be, if they meet the quality that I experienced back in Oculus, the last Oculus Connect, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it's going to come at $399 with the controllers, you are really talking about with a basic assortment of decent applications games. And we intend, by the way, to bring our Siege and many other stuff of ours on Quest.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that's going to be the first mass market VR consumer solution. And that, for me, that is going to be, 5 years late, maybe, or 3 years late, but better late than never. And I'm really hopeful. But again,
I'm very hopeful as well. So let me, I don't want to cut you short, but we've kind of run a little bit long here. So I see the potential here, not looking at mainly as providing controllers. The sad thing when we're doing Hangout with two people, they can't see me, so they're just hearing my disembodied voice. But you can see me still. But you're looking at STEM being used for motion capture, full body movement with your headset. Is that what I'm understanding?
100%. Our SDK comes with a full IK system, full avatar that the developer can take, and without any development, replace the avatar with any available avatar from any store, and suddenly they have an avatar. It automatically attaches to the different joints. They don't have to design anything. They can just put it in a new design plastic, and it connects immediately. It knows the joints.
Looks like you got something coming on. Okay, well, I'm going to jump out to your website real quick. We'll kind of just use that to sum up, but let me jump one more. Where's my cursor? There we go. Okay, so this is your new website, and as I had found out, 1 or 2 years ago, it is now Sixense Enterprises, correct?
Correct. Thank you very much.
And as you have indicated, you, at least in your website, you have solutions, platform, and media, and obviously now we're aware that you don't actually sell systems, but you are willing to provide on a leased basis for somebody who has potential as a developer a kit so that they can test and work with software, as you said, propose it to their boards or groups, and then from there we continue with that company who has taken a look at your reference design and building their own from that. Is that what I understand?
You couldn't do, I could not have done it better. Could not say it better.
Okay. So, and as we saw with a couple of videos, we hadn't seen anything in healthcare yet, but hopefully you'll send me a video.
1 second. Go up there for the hardware. Go to platforms. Platform, okay. Go hardware. Yeah, go down. You'll see. All the way. So go click the hardware, view hardware. Okay. Then go to the bottom. Look at this amazing solution. I really recommend everybody to watch this video. Go down all the way. This Sisu. This one on the bottom. This is marketing.
Which one? This one or this one here?
No, go to the bottom one. The bottom one is technical. Your people can then. So go this one. This one. Yeah. This one is amazing. This is an unbelievable solution using and you can see we actually gave them the STEM controller, and they modified it together with the tracker. Look at that. They are programming the robotic arm in a way that is groundbreaking. It makes it so you don't have to be an engineer to program. This is a robotic arm for welding, or this is not for welding, but it can be also for welding, because I know that is being used. But look at that. You see but the controller is basically the STEM, but it's a STEM with this is our design for controller that is wired. And they have
essentially he's using the controlling or the intuitive what do you want to call it, operation of your STEM controller to manipulate the arm. So it's actually using, I noticed that because it's a multi-joint arm, you're only using controllers. So I'm assuming there is an IK system that they're working with to identify the elbow and other joints.
So these guys here are doing something that is very intuitive. The controller is basically, and you'll see in a second, just run it a little further and you'll see what it's doing. Yeah, look at this. That's okay. Stop here for a second. You'll see. So you see here he's mapping, he's programming the arm to basically weld this thing together, and then you'll see at the end of it, and he's working with this giant company, this giant Japanese robotic company, Kiku, or whatever their name is. I cannot pronounce his name.
Yeah, I won't attempt it either. Okay, so very cool.
And you see now it's just going to go around. I recommend people to look at it because this company, I think this is, by the way, a company that your audience would love, for example, because these guys are a small company used to do consulting of how to train robotic arms for production for production lines, and they just realized that this is needed to reduce the level of expertise required for the programming of the arm. Now with their technology, almost every floor person without engineering background, but just with the knowledge what needs to be done, can do it.
Yeah, well, obviously, I think a lot of us who've worked a lot in VR in the last few years have found a lot of uses for the HTC tracker, but there are also some problems with the HTC tracker. So I'm glad to see, Amir, that Sixense is alive and well, and I really appreciate you doing the right thing for all your backers. And hopefully any of you out there, and I will have to take a deep look myself, because as I mentioned in my email to you, I think I have an opportunity here for museums. So I will get back in touch with you.
It's very interesting, by the way. Let's talk about it.
Okay. Well, we'll talk off air on it. I will be bringing up something later in the show that I've been working on, but I'll kind of hesitate to talk out loud right now. But yes, well, we'll do a Skype or something later on, or I'll just email you an outline. But let's stay with the point. Sixense is sixense.com. And thank you. Amir is the CEO of the company, and you can go out to their website. You can see him as well as anything else. And I think they discuss the solutions they're working with, their system. But if those of you who have followed STEM, the process of the STEM itself, it's clearly that they have some systems that we all saw working at GDC and CES. But in a professional market, I'm glad that it worked out for you. And again, very glad that you found the heart to please the people. I know that, as mentioned, I could have made $34 off the money, but maybe in the long run, the fact is that you've got something that's actually out there and is being used to help people and improve industry. Maybe it was worth that $34 that I didn't get from saving it. And you know what? I probably would have blew it on something else. So there you go. So Amir, I appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you very much. And we're going to go ahead and finish off with a few other items. And you enjoy your day, and thank you again.
Thank you, my friend. It's a pleasure, always.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, everyone, this is Mike Balzer, and that was Amir. And, clearly they've moved forward. They've stuck with it. And, it's sad that they couldn't get the consumer version done, but as we know, in the past 5 years, we have other solutions now. I do think that it's probably one of the more accurate systems out there, and clearly occlusion has been a problem with some other systems. I even have noticed it with the HTC Vive, depending on how I move sometimes. So the fact is that they have had a product that has potential. Clearly, I think they've gone in a direction I think that will work with them better. And, a lot of people complain, including myself, of taking our money and not actually providing something. But surprise, surprise, as I mentioned in the title here, hell did freeze over. It looks like we're going to get another storm here in Portland, so maybe there's something to that. Okay, let's go on and move into our first item. Some new technology in 3D fabrication, and I don't know about, I've started here, but let's see if I can, let's go now, let's stick with the Hackaday. Because I think this is the best article. They take a lot of the information, but it's using 3D fabrication, more of a stereolithic process or stereolithography process that you have in the Form Labs Form 1, and obviously there are variants from that. But it uses more of a tomography where they rotate the beam, and obviously there's a lot of discussion. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because I'm going to kind of run through this very quickly, but there is a video, and I will go ahead and find that video and play it. But did I lose that video? Oh, darn. Okay, well, I'll play the one that's here real quick. So there's some audio that goes along with it, but they show the gels. I think so you can actually see it being produced in the vat of material there. But essentially, yeah, they're talking about how they're using the tomography techniques seen in CT and MRIs and how it derives a solid model from there. So they're actually using it. And here they show an actual projector. They rotate the jar. Some people have concern, well, as you rotate it, obviously, you know, you have forces. But some people think because it's not that quickly, and maybe the material looks somewhat, doesn't look very viscous, but they can pour it out and there's your actual object. So many people are talking about it. Hackaday, I like it because they've got a lot of smart people who are making comments, so you can go back in and take a look at it yourself. I think it's something that's up and coming, but right now it's still in the research lab, as many items are. So take it for what it's worth. The other thing that I want to cover is a new soy-based material, so you can make your own energy bars. No, I was a little surprised because this story kind of talked about there aren't any other plastics that are not made from fossil fuels, but working with PLA, as most of us know, we use the term cornstarch. So I don't know where they're coming from that, and I think maybe it's from the stereolithography world, where by using a soy-based material fluid, they're able to get past using possibly some toxic and other chemicals and make this more medical capable. So, and they go through and talk a little bit about that. So I'm not going to give a lot of details again, so read the article. I think it's interesting. Again, more research, not something that you can go out and buy right now. And they do show some fairly good information, as an illustration here of the actual microns that they're able to print at. And it looks, you know, not as good as the latest Form Lab, but clearly might be something to look at. And we'll move on from there. And then here's the same article. So I'll just go on to there. All right, so let's get into 3D in medicine. Couple of things here. I thought this was really cool, and I should have a video for this one. So we'll go ahead and
HeartFlow is a personalized medical technology company dedicated to transforming the way cardiovascular disease is managed. Its flagship product, the HeartFlow FFRCT analysis, is the first and only non-invasive technology for coronary artery disease that offers insight on both the extent of a coronary artery narrowing and whether it is impacting blood flow. HeartFlow provides these two pieces of information based on a standard coronary CT scan. From the CT images, HeartFlow creates a complete geometric and physiologic model of the patient's unique coronary anatomy. Next, the scientific principles of computational fluid dynamics are applied to model the complexities of fluid flow. The end result of the heart flow analysis is a color-coded map of the coronary arteries, showing the extent to which any narrowings are disrupting blood flow. A physician can use this information to develop a treatment plan that is right for that patient. Previously, only through an invasive procedure could physicians verify if a narrowing in the arteries was impacting blood flow. Now, with heart flow, this functional information can be simulated non-invasively. Actively in commercial use, the HeartFlow FFRCT analysis offers the potential to help physicians redefine the diagnosis and management of coronary artery disease.
So, as you're probably aware of, normally I get involved in these kind of things because I may have some reasons for getting involved in this. But clearly, if a hospital near you is working with this, or you can contact them, I'm hoping that my hospital here in Oregon is working with something like this, but having an app that literally you take a CT scan of the heart, and as mentioned, they normally do things like inject fluids and other things. In the fact that you wouldn't have to do that would avoid some of the complications that may come from that. And what I think is really cool is using what they call the heart flow analysis, which is a fluid analysis process in here to determine blockages and, more important, percentage of blockages, so that even if you don't have an issue immediately, we could already start to look at possible problems in the future and how to actually move forward with either stents or drugs or some other things in order to reduce that. And so with a CT in this application, yeah, looks really exciting. You can download an app and try it for yourself. So if you're a professional, somebody who who works in a hospital or something, or maybe a radiology lab or a heart specialist, maybe this would be something to move forward with. And if you haven't heard of it, take a little more look at it. Okay, so I think I have one more item in 3D in medicine, and I've got a couple of videos to go along with it, so let me throw them. I thought this is really nice in the sense, and I'll run the video and then I'll talk about it afterwards.
Frankly, there was a measure of ridicule, actually, about the idea, because it was just considered too grandiose.
The scanner is now completed, and we recently acquired the very first human images. It was an amazing moment. We can just see far more detail in these images than we've ever seen before.
If we want to get the same quality of images that we get today, we can do that in a minute or less, compared to almost half an hour for a regular scan.
We have opportunities to scan either much more quickly or with far reduced radiation dose.
A dose that's comparable to a return flight from the West Coast to London and back.
We think that's going to greatly open up the application space for PET scanning.
So as you can see there, also very interesting technology, PET scanning, but using a brand new processing and sensors that's 40 times more sensitive, or as they say, more resolution, or improvement in performance. So literally you can go through 20-minute acquisition, 5 iterations to provide this here. If you've ever had an MRI or something like that, you know that it can be a lengthy process. The other thing that was cool, and I have a little video here that we can play in the background, is using it for real-time analysis. Here they're showing the scan being done while the fluid, or I guess it's a nuclear material, is flowing through arterial from, I guess, looks like his thigh, And so you can clearly see the flow analysis in real time. And this is done over a course of, what is it, 23, 24 minutes, 30 minutes, as they show here. And this is supposedly a huge reduction in the time it takes to scan. The other important thing, and we've talked about this before, is all these emission devices can be a problem if you have to have a number of them. And so the fact is that this can also be significantly less lower radiation dosage. And as he mentioned in the video, as much VAMR radiation as you would get going long distance from New York, I think, to England. And so I'm assuming going through the scanners there. So that's something clearly important, especially if you've had a number of these done for whatever reason. So that, I think, is also a good feature. There seems to be only one, but I thought was interesting. This article doesn't show it, but you can go out to their website. They've also made a smaller compact version for veterinarians, and they're also testing that as well up at UC Davis. So I think actually they've got one that's going to take patients in Sacramento. And if you know where UC Davis is, it's just a hop, skip from Sacramento. So they will actually be going live, I think, in March, if I remember correctly. And I think the veterinary version is also available. So kind of neat that we have both one for humans and for little guys as well. All right, let's move on to VR. And I'm going to do a shout out to the Verge. If you remember, we had Addie Robertson on earlier, not in person, but in a video back in 2015. As you know, she has been also a huge VR enthusiast, and she was out at Sundance, and she was looking at a lot of the stuff, and she's done a great article about some of the things that are available. Sadly, not any of these, or I didn't notice that any of them were available for download or for viewing. Many of them are set up at Sundance at the time, but she goes through there and talks about what she considers best for VR animation, best for social experience, best interactive mechanics, best writing, and so on. You can go through it and then head out to the links from there, but thanks, Addie, for putting that together for us. Okay, the other thing that's in VR is this, and I have a little video, and I don't know if I want to give them any shout outs.
Simulate recoil in VR.
But, you know, if you've been watching the show, I have my opinions about guns, and even, I think, for simulation training, for experience, but just for the sake of entertainment, do we really need more products to simulate a real gun? I don't really think that's true, but clearly as an engineer, it's always impressive to see what people do. And in this case, I think it's kind of interesting how they've put this together. And the fact is, I think they're going to be launching a Kickstarter. So again, my question is why? But the company behind this, and let me jump back to it, is ProTube, and they already have accessories that you can buy to extend your HTC Vive trackers or your Oculus to resemble a rifle type gun. And now they're actually going to create a stock with the haptics and feedback to give the simulation of using a semi-automatic or automatic gun. Oh well, can't say any more about that. All right, let's move on to the tech closet. So I have two items I want to talk about. One is this product, the Archisketch, which I finally got. It's been, you know, like many Kickstarters, it was late, but I did get it. So I'm going to drop to my other camera right now and pull it out so that we can take a look at it. So let me go ahead and fade over to it. So here it is. This is the Archisketch. And it's a lightweight product. It's well made. But essentially what it is, and let's see if I can go, it is a laser rangefinder finder with Bluetooth in it, but more importantly, you can hold this up and you can place your phone in it. And let's see if we can do that. Now, I found this to be kind of a struggle, so let's see. So let's see if I can get it right now. So I guess if you put it down, you have to squeeze it out, which is a little hard, and then slip it in. So and then just slide it all the way down. As mentioned, it's Bluetooth. If you notice, there's a micro USB port here. That's for charging, so I already have it charged. I'll go ahead and turn on the phone. And let's see what we've got here. You find the little app. Of course, I'm not going to find it off the top. So let me see. Darn it, I have it. Yeah. All right, so I'm not going to sign in. I will turn it on, just a little button there. So I guess I have to hold it. Okay, and as you can see there, the power light goes on, which is green, and since I'm keying out green, you won't see it. I guess I could probably, let's see, gotta adjust this real quick. Don't need to do any color keying, so I will turn it off. There we go. Okay, so as you can see, it's fairly straightforward. I have a test plan already created. You can do floor plan or measurements in their little app, and it seems to work pretty well. I haven't compared it to another rangefinder. Some people have said that it's off. In my rough guesstimate and some of the things that I set it up for, it worked pretty well. Essentially, I'm not going to go through it. They kind of wrote back to me and said, you know, we're still in beta in the software. Don't put a lot of effort into it now, which I won't. Can't even log in, so I won't do that. But I think the operation is kind of cool. Keep in mind, literally what you're doing is pointing, and your screen kind of acts as like the user interface for it. So you see the laser beam in the screen itself. And let's see, maybe I can actually connect the device. I'm going to take a measurement. Okay, and I'll turn it this way. It's got like a handle, so if you can see that. And then you can't see my screen here, but let me go this way. There we go. And let's see if you can see. Oh, now I can see it. Well, you can't see my screen, but essentially you can see the laser in the screen on the phone. And then essentially you just push the button on top here, and you click it, and it gives you a reading. It's pretty easy. Let's see if you can see that there. And then you can do multiple points, and then it will take the area. But there are other devices that do that. And what else can you do with it? Oh, you can basically map out a room. But one thing that I found, if you have a lot of objects in your room, if it's not bare, it makes it a little bit more difficult because you need to find the points for each of the surfaces. But it will build it together, and then you can upload it. I wish there was ability for this thing to actually work in the phone itself, to download the model. Maybe they'll do that in the future. And the fact that they're still working on their web component of this, I wasn't able to test that, but I will once they get that up and running, and which I think they said will be later on in February. So I'll give them the time to do that. It's a cool little device. The only problem I have found so far with the device, jumping back to it, is that if you notice, it was a little bit of struggle to get it in. But like I said, if you put it down like this, turn it off so the laser doesn't reflect off something back into my eyes. It is a Class 2 laser, so please don't shine it into people's eyes if you get one. But it's about the same as a rangefinder or something else. My problem was pushing it in. I think it's a little tense. They should have gone with a screw, but it works. And then it's a little hard to get out, but I guess you don't want it falling out when you're using it, so I think that's a good thing. My XL, or my 2XL, is a little almost too wide for it, but it did fit. I haven't tried it with any. Actually, there is no iPhone software yet, so I don't know if there will be some available. But yeah, if you want a rangefinder, the thing is, I think Let me go back to the website. Their Kickstarter is obviously finished by now, but you can pre-order it, and I think it's about, oh, I don't want to get it wrong. Let's see what their pre-order. It takes you out to an Indiegogo site, which is kind of funny. But it does look like this will be available for $249, if I remember correctly. You can go out and look for it yourself. So if you wanted to pre-order one, I think it's about $240. But again, it's well designed, lightweight, and fairly ergonomic. It's a little, my hand's a little bit too big for it, but and also the thumb getting up to the touchpad was a little difficult, but I didn't have any problems loading up the software with it. And it seems to work when you press the button. I don't think English was their first language, so I think some people had problems following their instructions, but I have a lot of products. I think they might be Chinese. So I've had a lot of products from China, and I've been working with technology for some time, but I didn't have any issues with it. And they're really working to make better. Let's go out to their website. So let's see, order now. Let's see what it comes up with here. It probably it takes you out to the same thing. So we won't go there. But I think it's about $249. They're going to have a floor plan tool that is web-based that you log into, and then your actual phone you log into as well, and it'll upload those scans that you do. Actually, they're point recordings, and then it takes that full point recording back up. And so you've got two components to this. I wish that, again, that they had a component that would allow you to upload in a generic format or a SketchUp format or something like that, so that you could work with your own tools with it. And hopefully there'll be an export feature. They didn't write back to me, so I don't know if that'll be available. I sure hope they don't keep this all in their own proprietary system. That would be a drag. And some people have asked, let's see, as a developer, some people, there isn't much information on it. I have asked about it, so maybe I'll get more information on that as well. But if they have a full SDK, then you can make your own applications, which would be very cool. So if you were on the fence about it, and if you got $250, keep in mind if all you needed was a laser measurement device with Bluetooth, they're about $100. But if you want something that can carry over into actually mapping out a room without buying a structure sensor from Occipital or the, I can't think of the names of the company, MATLAB, no, I can't think of it now. But there's another company which is like a $2,500, $3,000 product. And then obviously there are LiDAR systems. So this could be a very simple product if you needed basic points of a room, and then take that into a program with some very accurate measurements. I think would be a very cool idea. Okay, so that's about it. Let's move into one last item before I quit, and I'm going to do it very quickly. And I should have spent more time, so let me bring up the computer out of sleep. But the last thing that I wanted to cover, only because I find it very exciting, I've been working on this project. I may or may not have mentioned it already. And let me find my screen. Come on, did you come up? Okay. And I'm doing something a little different, so hopefully this will all work out. Okay, so let me find the screen that's associated with it. There we go. All right, so let's start with this computer. So I've talked about this before, but if you've got a high density mesh, and let's say you've brought in something that somebody has scanned, or you've done some photogrammetry. I know there's photogrammetry tools out there that will do decimation and let me get the word I'll just call it re-topo, since I have a problem pronouncing certain words. But essentially, if you're wanting to reduce it into something more manageable for VR or for mobile gaming, there aren't really a lot of really good tools out there, but I did find two, because if you noticed here, I'm working on, this is actually a very preliminary, they're sunk into my surface here, but I don't know why I don't have a texture. I must have screwed it up, or let's see. Well, I've really messed it up. That's good, because I don't really want to show it off right now. But so essentially, I've got a lot of models in here, but the one that I really want to show off right now, and I can do it, is something that a gentleman who's out on CG Trader has created this excellent model. Where are you? Great. And but the problem is, as you can see there, it's 1.796 million faces or triangles. That's a little bit too much, even though a medium performing VR system can handle it. If you wanted to go mobile, this clearly is not the direction. So I've done a little retexturing on it, and but I needed something far more reduced in triangles. And I have a couple of options, and I'm going to show them here in a second. So let me go find, where's my other screen? Oops. There we go. I'll have to bring it up. So let's find one of my other proxies that I created. Okay, so we'll go with, let's say this one here, I think is it. Let's go with, let's see where he's at. Here we go. Let's go with number 6. So this, if you notice, has only 18K. And in fact, I've got it all the way down to 10K. But this is an 18K, and I don't think I have the... And yeah, what I did is I removed the visors because I didn't want that to be decimated or re-topoed. So this is all done within Unreal. And Unreal has a great tool, and I've talked about it before. But the problem is, if you go to their guidelines, they don't really talk about a lot of the features. So I want to do very quickly, go through and show you that. So let me jump out of this. And sorry for being a little clumsy, but I guess I have to close it each time. But I'm using another computer to actually show this off, so I'm limited on what I can see. So I'm going to throw the original into the scene. Actually, it's already in there, so we'll go ahead and use that. So let's take one of these characters here, and if you notice, one of these is actually a decimated that I used in another program called Polygon, which we're going to talk about here in a moment, which is also free now, or at least those who may have a Microsoft developer license, which is not that expensive. So it's basically free. So let me click on this guy here. Okay, so this is my main model. So I can actually choose, and you need to make sure you choose all your components. So let me go ahead and do so. Okay. Using the wrong keyboard. All right, so I think I've got all of it. If not, yeah. Let's add one more. There we go. Okay, the arms. Okay, so you go up to your window and you look for developer tools. And if you follow this before with me, or if you've done this yourself, you go down and you find merge actors. And so that's green. Good, it came. So notice, because I pre-selected all of them beforehand, they're all chosen for my merge acting. So if you use just the feature on the left, this essentially just does that. It merges the actors into one mesh, or just combines the mesh. And I'm pretty sure, let's see, you can also, yeah, you get your output gen. You can also determine I think this just shares the same textures, so it doesn't really modify your UV. It doesn't create like a large atlas map. But the next one over combines it and creates a proxy. And this is very important because the proxy is what allows you to do a major reduction. But keep in mind, if you use their standard settings, which is a spatial sampling distance of 3 and the screen size of 300, it's going to give you a very reduced model. And you may or may not want that. The other thing to keep in mind, and we'll jump down to it real quick, is materials. You need to make sure that you choose the materials that you want. And notice the defaults are 1024 by 1024. Now this does create an atlas, so you need to keep that in mind because it's going to combine all the textures on that model. So imagine if you had 4K textures on different parts of your model all into one, and in this case, combine it all into a 1K by 1K texture. That's not a good idea. So I pushed this up to 4K, and maybe even 8K. Now I've noticed that mine crashes at 8K, but the reason for that is this thing needs a lot of memory. Now I originally did some things with it with only a 32 gigabyte machine, and it crashed more times than not. I've now bumped it up to 48, but I think a good system, if you're going to do this for real, is maybe 64 gigs. Now it also takes a very long time, which is kind of disappointing, but again, it's free. And in this case, sometimes these things take, I don't know, 20 hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, depending on their complexity. So like I said, you can bump these up. I'd go to 4,000, and you can just go in here and change the numbers by hand. And then the same thing with the Y. And then you choose what textures do you want to create the atlas. So obviously a normal mat, if you had a metallic map on your model, make sure you select metallic map, roughness map, and obviously if you had an emissive map on your model, you want to make sure you select that. And basically only ones that actually apply to the model you're working with, and especially if you had an ambient occlusion map. So it combines all those. And then once you're done, but we're not done yet, we want to go back and change our screen size, because as mentioned, if you stick with a screen size of 300, it gives you a very, very small mesh, and it really doesn't look too good. So what I've done is gone to its maximum, which is 1200, which gave me the mesh that you saw previously, which is about 18K, which I think is more than adequate, and actually looks really good. The actual mesh itself is soft, but it compensates for that with the height map and normal map if you provide it. The other thing that I would do is override this and put it at 1. Don't go any lower than that, again, unless you've got lots of memory, because the smaller the number, as you can see there, the smaller the number, the more memory and more time that it takes. I found one worked and I didn't crash. And again, textures of 4096 by 4096. And again, once that was done, and I'm not going to go through the process because it took a little while, let me jump back to my little guy. So sorry that I don't have more screen space. Where are we at? Great, so now I can't. I've lost the screen completely. Darn it. All right, so let's go up here. Jump right. We'll put it right here. Okay, so there we go. All right, so we look at content. Let's go find our little character again. Now let's filter by static mesh. So let's find him. Okay, so as you can see, with 18K, it did a really good job. In fact, you wouldn't know unless you really looked up close that there was any difference than the original model, which I can bring up again so you can see that. So as you can see, there's more detail here, but again, it's 1.7 megs. So that's where I moved into another product called SimpleGon, and I'll show you what kind of results I got with that. So let me go to this model. Now this was SimpleGon, and notice that it's almost the same quality. In fact, once in the game, you really can't tell the difference between the two, and this one is only 82K. So clearly this is a nice model if you you want to use a highly realistic model. In fact, I plan to rig this one, and it'll be the model that I use in VR. And to give you an idea, I'm creating a lunar Apollo 11 for the July anniversary here at the OMSI, which is the Oregon Museum of Science and Industry, in July. And the idea with some HTC Vive trackers attached to your body, which now that I talked to Amir, I may look at using their new Pro STEM system, but essentially allow you to track the components so that a person feels like they're in a spacesuit. They'll be wearing, remember those moon boots from years ago? I'm going to get some low-cost version of those, put some trackers on that, so a person feels like they're in a spacesuit, and they can literally climb up a small ladder as though they're going up into the lunar module. And so hopefully the experience will be pretty exciting. And so they'll be able to move their arms. I don't know. I think it's kind of fun. But of course, you need a highly realistic model. So how did I get this? Well, let me jump, make sure this all works, out of this and go to my other machine. So and as mentioned, you should be able to get a free version of this if you're a Microsoft developer, and you can join. I can't remember the cost, but it was very reasonable. And you may not even need that. You just need to sign up. I think Microsoft purchased SimpleGon, which at least I found out, and you can get one node. Now keep in mind that's for a machine. I loaded this on the other machine, that's why I'm using two, and I wasn't able, the license wouldn't authenticate on the second machine. So more than likely I have to take it off one machine and bring it into another machine. Okay, so SimpleGon does a couple of things. The model that you saw first in Unreal was decimated, and it has some cool tools for that. And let's see, can I jump into, well, I'm going to show some results from this first. But it also does something very similar. In fact, if you've heard of the name SimpleGon, it's probably because SimpleGon used to be the tool for those people who had, what do you want to call it, developer licenses from Unreal to provide LOD reduction. And I noticed that there are some features that look very similar. One is, if you go over here, the size, let's go back to the remeshing here on the side, the pixels, notice it says 300, surface transfer, merge distance 4, so on. And this is a side-by-side comparison. The other cool thing is that this SimpleGon also has a cloud-based mesh unit. So it uploads it and does it there, and it also appears to be free. So you don't have to use your local host for it or your main machine. And then it was like far faster. So here you go. Here's the main model, again, 1.7, and then here is the LOD1 as they call it, and it's only 11K. Now, obviously, I didn't apply the same thing that I had done in the previous, but I would go over to my pixels here and increase it all the way out to 5,000. That wasn't what I was able to do in the version on the, do I have that right? Yes. And then also merge distance, you can actually go down to 0. And then your maximum triangle size. Now, I didn't actually try this, but we can. And once I do this, I should be able to get a new mesh. So I'm going to throw it out there. And it's now waiting. And I should still have the ability. It says, yeah, it's writing right now. So I should be able to go back and continue to work with it. So I'm going to go in and look at some other features. And let's go into the editor, and I'm going to go back and go, let's see, where do I want to? I'm going to go back to activating reduction, which is the decimator. And the cool thing about the decimation process is that unlike the retopoing, which could also modify your UVs, so keep that in mind. And that was a concern because if you notice, I did bring textures in, but it only brings in textures for your diffuse, ambience, or ambient specular, and a couple of, but it doesn't bring in textures to do PBR. Now it will allow, if you're using baking, to create textures for PBR, but for whatever reason, and maybe just something I haven't figured out yet, I wasn't able to import PBR, and I tried both an FBX, which is one of its import capability, and an OBJ, and neither of them were able to. In fact, I had to kind of play around with the material edit or the text file in order to get that to work. But just kind of keep that in mind, that you may not be able to import a full PBR in order to actually reflect that in your retopoing. But if you're just wanting to decimate, I found it to be one of the best decimation processes I've ever experienced. And let me jump back in there. So here's your reduction, and you have several. You can go by percentage. You can go by pixels, which is what we just talked about earlier, or you can go by triangles. And all of these are limits. So here I can reduce it to 20,000, but I wanted to create a model that was about 100K. As you saw, it turned out to be 82K, which was more than reasonable for my needs. But you could bring this down further, and you can then identify features that are important. You can do repairs. Let's make sure I'm looking in the right area. Normal repairs, and then also if you have symmetry on your model, it will use that for comparison as well. So it's a really nice tool. And again, it appears to be free. And again, one node, make sure you put it on the machine that you want. All right, let's jump back to what we had. I'm going to bring in this model that we just did earlier. And there you go. Notice it didn't really change the number of polygons, still around 11. So I have to obviously play around with that a little bit more. But there's the differences. Not a lot of differences. I mean, obviously, as you bring it up close, there you can see how some of the suit texture was removed. But again, it's because, yeah, I actually didn't even check to see what the texture size is, but I don't think they were that. Even though I selected 4K, so you can see on the left there, stitching. Here you don't really see that. The glossy layer, I don't really know why we have that. But with the original one that I created, I actually had materials that were PBR related. I changed the colors of the glove and tips based upon the Smithsonian model. So that's why you see the little blue. I don't know what the material is, but they look like a grayish blue, like surgeon gloves. So it might be some type of latex or a silicon synthetic material of some sort. Unknown. I guess you can go out to some Smithsonian and read about it. They're getting close to providing more information and putting the actual, what's his name? Geez, that's bad. Neil Armstrong spacesuit on display, and hopefully they're going to bring the scan out in July as well. So I'm in contact with them. Hopefully I'll have them on for an interview to see where they're at with it. If you remember, if you've been watching the show for some time, I had them on in 2015. So that's about it on the tutorial. Clearly you can go out to both sites. They'll be in the show notes for links. But let me find my main camera so I can come back to you. So that's about it today. I hope you appreciated the information from Amir. You know, I really think that was an upstanding thing that they did. Clearly, it's a lot longer than a lot of people wanted. I even kind of threatened, you know, not only a lawsuit or a class action suit, but even contact the AG. Luckily, I didn't have to do that. And, you know, I realized it's not a huge investment, but it still was some, and I'm glad that they were actually making the refunds. I think that really shows the kind of guy that Amir is, and you know, even though he really wanted to put out a product, I can understand why they didn't happen based upon my own experience. And I've known that several other Kickstarters have failed and didn't even provide money. Luckily, it wasn't as much, but they were obviously a high-profile company with some very interesting technology, and clearly they couldn't bring it to market as a standalone consumer product. Oh well. Well, that's it for today, and I guess I'll see you in another 2 weeks. If you're in the Oregon area, Portland, and you have some time on the 20th, which I think is a Wednesday, I'm going to be at the, what am I going to be at? The, oh yeah, the VR Cafe. It'll be held there from 6:30 to 8:30, a couple of hours. We're going to have a little bit of mingling time. VR Cafe will provide beverages. First beverage is on me, but they have snacks and so forth. And they're located in the Washington Square Mall. So if you're in the area, I can't remember the highways, but it's fairly easy to take 217 and hit right directly to it. So it's an easy route to get there. And you know, I'm not a big mall fan, but if you wanted to go to a mall, it's a fairly nice mall as well. Oh well, that's about it. I will see you in a couple weeks, if not sooner. And I appreciate you watching. Bye.